All right, we're just going to wait about 5-6 seconds for LinkedIn to catch up. I know that YouTube is pretty good about it. It gets up there more quickly. And I think we can get started. So welcome everybody to another episode of All Things TAC. Today we are sponsored by Droneresponders, who have a TAC working group in which my company, UAS Strategic, and my co-host, Tim Reed, to the right of me, we help to put that up. Tim runs a server and gets all the credentials and answers a lot of questions. And so that who is sponsoring us today, Droneresponders TAC working group. And we have a phenomenal lineup of people today. And I'm just going to ask each one, as I say your name, to raise your hand so they know who you are. And we're going to start with Marshall Frith. So Marshall is a Sky-Fi TAC solution engineer. He graduated from Florida State University in 2005 with a bachelor's and a master's in international affairs. From 2006 to 18, he was a contractor at the Defense Advanced Research Project Agency, better known as DARPA, mostly TAC specific, and was a lead technical support to DARPA's Persistent Close Air Support, or PCAS program that was a catalyst for TAC from 2010 to 2015 plus. In 18, he joined Ariane Defense USA, acquired by FLIR Teledyne in 19, and was a product lead for the R-80D Skyraider UAS and TAC integration. Very cool. In late 2019, he returned to DARPA to support unmanned undersea tactical vehicles and left DARPA in 21 for various roles supporting the Office of Naval Research, Headquarters Marine Aviation, Pax River, S&T, or Science and Technology, and Office of Undersecretary of Defense, Research and Engineering, Rapid Defense Experimentation Reserve Efforts. In October 25, he began a new position as a TAC solution engineer for Sky-Fi, a commercial startup that empowers users within the TAC ecosystem with global daily geospatial products from optical, multispectral, synthetic aperture radar, or SAR, those providers of those items, and custom analytics for Earth observation. Currently, he's the lead at Sky-Fi for TAC integration of Sky-Fi's plugin into ATAC Civ, and within the next few months, hopefully TAC Aware, yay Corey Foy, and TAC X. He's been an avid TAC user since 2010 and has used TAC professionally and personally, which he has a great story to share later about that personal use of TAC. So welcome, Marshall. Thank you for being here.
Thanks, Ev. Really appreciate it.
All right, Jerry, give a hand raise. Jerry Nazario is an IT analyst with the Connecticut Department of Emergency Services and Public Protection, or DESPP, where he supports mission-critical technologies for the Connecticut State Police and Department of Emergency Management and Homeland Security. Over the past 7 years, Jerry has played a key role in advancing the ATAC program within the agency, supporting deployment, training, and integration of TAC across field operations, special units, and emergency response teams, which is like the raison d'etre, the reason for its existence. So thank you for doing that, Jerry. He's also involved in the agency's counter unmanned aircraft systems efforts, along with Kevin, who we're going to introduce shortly. And that's an extremely important part of today's live stream, in that, as everybody knows, there's a bunch of money being dumped into the SLTT world to support the FIFA and Olympic venues that will be coming up. It's extremely important stuff. So thank you for being a part of that. He helps to integrate drone detection data into TAC and geospatial platforms to improve real-time situational awareness. His work supports statewide initiatives to enhance interoperability, sensor fusion, and operational coordination during emergencies, public safety missions, and executive protection events. Passionate about leveraging emerging tech to support field personnel, Jerry continues to drive innovation that strengthens the agency's capability to make informed decisions, collaborate effectively, and maintain operational awareness when it matters most. Thank you, Jerry. Okay, next up, Kevin Pelkey. Sergeant Kevin Pelkey is with the Connecticut State Police Emergency Services Unit. He's a bomb squad supervisor and counter UAS program manager, as well as mass transit security. He served with the state police since January of 2007 Throughout his career, he has gained diverse operational experience across multiple troops and specialized units statewide. In 16, he was competitively selected to join the Emergency Services Unit Bomb Squad and successfully completed the prestigious FBI Hazardous Devices School at Redstone Arsenal in 18, earning national cert as a public safety bomb technician. Promoted to the rank of sergeant in 21, Sergeant Pelkey assumed increasing leadership responsibilities within the ESU. In December of 22, he was appointed full-time bomb squad supervisor, overseeing all daily operations, training, equipment procurement, and long-range strategic planning for one of the state's most critical public safety assets. Under his leadership, Sergeant Pelkey has spearheaded the revitalization and expansion of the Connecticut State Police Counter-UAS or drone detection program, which is now fully integrated within the bomb squad. Very cool. By leveraging established partnerships within the Transportation Security Administration, the FAA, the Federal Air Marshal Service, FBI, U.S. Coast Guard, and private critical infrastructure security providers, think, power grids, nuclear plants, the program delivers advanced airspace domain awareness and enhanced protection for high-risk venues, transportation hubs, and large-scale public events across Connecticut. Thank you, Kevin, and welcome.
Thanks, Ev. Appreciate it.
And Amos, give a hand raise. He has dedicated his career. Amos Halva is a known entity within TAC and other places. He has dedicated his career to advancing technology in public safety, serving as a law enforcement officer with the Carter County, Tennessee Sheriff's Office since 2003, and as a firefighter with the Hampton Volunteer Fire Department since 2000. Since 19, Amos has been a leading advocate for the adoption of TAC across Upper East Tennessee. Under his leadership, the region has deployed a comprehensive TAC service supporting law enforcement, fire, and emergency response services. By integrating data feeds from aircraft, 911 centers, officer locations, video surveillance, and drones, he has provided unparalleled situational awareness tools to first responders. The robust system has empowered agencies to operate collaboratively, improving response times and safety across complex incidents. In his current role as business development manager for public sector at Samsung Electronics America, Amos continues to bridge cutting-edge technology with public safety operations. Drawing on over 2 decades of field experience, he champions solutions that equip officers and firefighters with advanced capabilities in the field. His work with TAC has positioned Upper East Tennessee as a model for regional interoperability, demonstrating how modern tools can transform public safety operations and enhance mission-critical decision-making. And if you have ever met Amos or know him well, you'll instantly recognize him as a really good-hearted, open person who is just always willing to help. So, Amos, it's a pleasure having you here. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Zeb. Most people just recognize me as a hillbilly, but yours was much nicer.
That's funny right there. All right. To the viewers, before we get started, I want to let you know that your comments are most welcome. Your questions are most welcome. And if it resonates, we will put it up on the bottom of the screen you're looking at right now. So yeah, definitely get involved and be a part of it. So let's get right to it. I will start with the first question, which is to Amos. Can you tell us a bit more about Samsung's commitment to the evolution of TAC, not only with the equipment, but all the peripheral things that go with your phones? And again, I was really glad to hear and kind of amazed that as you're going through R&D, you're working with your partners who are putting together peripherals for your phones way before it's released, so that they can tool up and have things ready. So it's quite an orchestra you guys put together. So tell us a bit about your commitment to the evolution of TAC in military, government, and civilian/commercial.
Yes, thanks for this opportunity to be here. So, the Samsung, long before I came on board with Samsung, I was using Samsung devices to do all my TAC stuff, because it didn't take long to figure out that if you were going to use a device to run TAC, and you're going to run plugins, and you're going to do kind of some of the advanced stuff that makes TAC very powerful, you needed a good device. And I appreciate the people out there that are writing applications for iOS and Linux and all this other stuff. but it comes back to, the Android version of TAC is the most well developed. And, we started using Dex to do all of our planning because WinTAC would, you'd do so much that it would start crashing. And that's what really led when I took this job at Samsung, was taking those technologies and showcasing that to other people. It's like, look, it's not just a nice phone that you can watch your TikToks and your Twitters on, but it's actually a business class computer in your hand that allows you to work it as a desktop, as a laptop in your car, but it's really being powered by the phone in your pocket. And that's kind of my mission, is to showcase that technology in the phones themselves. So using, the high quality devices, Dex, to do that desktop experience. And then to your point, the other people that we partner with. So, my job as business development manager really is to work with our partners. I actually work with Booz Allen. As they're wanting to do more things, it's like, hey, here's our XR that we come out with. So, look for maybe new versions of tools that can be used on the virtual reality or, mixed reality things that are out there. So it's not just phones, it's not just tablets, but rugged devices, and then the peripherals. So partners like, Juggernaut, RAM, Gamber Johnson, Havas, that all make, you've got Bunker, that all make gear that fits on the Samsung stuff to help affect your mission, whether it be you need extra batteries or you're going to chest mount, whatever it is that you need to do, or you're going to tie into our Tactical Edition radios and you need decent cables to hook that stuff up with. So if there's anything out there that somebody needs and you're just not quite sure where to go to, feel free to reach out to me. You can find me on LinkedIn pretty easy. And I could get you in touch with a partner who makes something, if you need it, or if you're a developer and you've got an opportunity and you're writing code and you need something to test with, reach out. Let's see if we can get you a test device or something that you can make sure your code's going to work. That's a big push for us. Samsung's commitment to TAC is born out of the military usage of it, and that's where we as far as supporting that and making sure it stays in the forefront. But as that same technology gets used more by first responders, drone teams and stuff like that, we're just wanting to make sure that everything we have works well and fits the mission that they need so that they'll get the capabilities that they want.
So, panel, raise your hand if you have a Samsung phone, EUD. Raise your hand if you have a tablet. So everybody's got them. And I guess one of my questions would be, as Droneresponders is trying to get the 18,000 law enforcement agencies out there, state, local, territorial, and tribal, into the TAC world, what do you offer in terms of T&E or loaner, or helping them get into that experience so they know which hardware to buy? What does that look like, if you do that at all? I don't know if you do.
So yeah, that gets a little tricky, because sometimes it's like, well, I get a device, but I need connectivity, as especially for agencies. The first step would be go to your carrier and ask them for devices, right? Because
Okay, we lost Amos. We do know that he is in a rural area driving through, so I'm going to
I,
I'll give him another few seconds. Maybe it's just one bad area. Okay, so Amos, we can't hear you. If you can hear us, we'll come back to you in a little bit. Oh, there you are. You're back. So we missed everything.
No, I'm sorry.
No. After you said it's kind of a tricky area, we suggest, and then we lost you.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah. If an agency is going to look for devices, agency wide, go to your carrier first, because then you're going to get test devices that have connectivity. It wouldn't do me a lot of good to send you 20 devices if they don't have any, carrier network, and you have to get them on Wi-Fi. You know what I mean? So that's like step number one. But if you're a developer and you've got an opportunity, you're going to be writing code for something, and you just need something to test with, and you can usually say, hey, look, my potential is, I can sell 3,000 devices off of this, then I could tie that in and say, look, okay, let me push it up and see if we can get you a test device. They typically will do like a 90-day eval. So the guys that are writing code stuff, if you need some test devices, reach out. and then we can see what we can do to help support that development and get you further. But that's something that we evaluate on a case by case. So just reach out and give me your question, and I'll see what I can figure out for you.
Okay, brilliant, brilliant. Let me just tee something up here for Marshall, who we're going to get you next. Okay, so Marshall, I have the pictures that you sent me ready to come up when we get to that portion of the show. So I guess my first question to you, Marshall, would be, give me a little bit about your inside track with TAC, how long you've been in it, some of the amazing people that you've been connected to that maybe you wish you would hear from time to time that you might have lost connection with or contact with throughout the process. Tell us who were the shakers and the movers that were in it, and obviously yourself, and what did that look like?
Yeah, no, it's a long and interesting story. I'll fully admit, when we did the PCAST program, there was kind of two competing apps out there at the time. There was Killswitch APAS and there was ATAC, and took me a few years until Josh Sterling beat me up pretty good and showed me the way, and never looked back. And but yeah, I mean, sadly we lost Alan Yoshida in 23. I spent a lot of time with him on the PCAST program. He was kind of our subject matter expert from the JTAC community or combat controller community, helping us with a lot of stuff. Really miss that guy. But I've met so many great people along the way. I mean, from Eric Aislinn in forestry to then AJ further along, and Dave Merrick at FSU, where is my school. Hopefully we can win a football game this weekend and make a bowl game. To Ralph Kohler from the very beginning of if he's ever come on here to talk about Marti, which was like the idea of TAC server before TAC was a thing. And I just feel fortunate to be part of such a great community of folks here on the show today. And then just overall, like there's always whether it's going on the Slack instance to ask a question or just texting somebody if there's a technical question I don't know the answer to. It's been really cool to watch how what may have started out as a Department of War application back in the day of how do I do digital close air support, to my soft spot in my heart is definitely out there with the first responders. After in 2017, you got to help out with Hurricane Harvey, Irma, and Maria from afar. Well, Irma at the FEMA jock, and there's just a lot of really great applications for ATAC and the TAC suite of products. So I've been really fortunate with coming on board with Skyfi last month. It's a great, amazing geospatial company of being able to do on-demand satellite imagery. So I'm just excited to be back in the community, and it has been a crazy story of some stories I could tell, some I can't, of TAC, and a great community of folks out.
So you mentioned about what motivated you to get more into it and to appreciate TAC. The very first episode of All Things TAC, I had Dave Zader, who, by the way, I met in person at CivTAC 25, which we'll talk about a little bit later. And I don't know if you've ever seen the movie Snatch with Brad Pitt, where he plays a Roma or Gypsy in England, and a couple of guys come in with their Land Rover, and one of them is really big. He gets out of the car, and Brad pretends he's taken aback and says, "Oh, look at the size of that guy." When I met Dave Zader, I think that's the first thing that came into my mind. I want to put something up on screen to maybe bring you back a little bit to when you started with that.
You're giving me flashbacks of doing PowerPoint.
I think I showed that to you at CivTAC. Am I right?
Yeah. No, it's awesome to see that graphic in the middle. That I remember Yosh gave me that, and the very first time I met him, he showed up with that MR1 laptop there, and that's what I think the fortunate part was of, like, when I was at DARPA, was we kind of started this close air support program right as the smartphone boom had happened and Android had just come out. So it was fortuitous in a sense, because the smartphone boom plus the ability to do shared situational awareness, and yeah, the rest is just history. It's just amazing to see what folks have done.
Yeah. So, I was going on one track, and then that came up and I had to show it to you. But so on the very first episode, I think what motivated Dave and AJ, so AJ had been a hotshot in his career, and what happened with the Granite Mountain hot shots over at the Yarnell Fire, which was, not literally my backyard, but I was living in northern Scottsdale at the time in Arizona, and I remember it very well. And we put together a video, about a 3-minute video of actual footage that he had collected of air attack, trying to get a hold of the guys on the ground. One of the chiefs saying, "Now you need to calm down and stop yelling in the radio when, they're about to perish." It was pretty tough. But yeah, I remember that was their incentive, and it was very emotional talking about it. And it's tough, but it's interesting what moves people. And unfortunately, sometimes it's disaster, like in your case, the hurricanes. So yeah, we have a comment from Chris Stalser from Juggernaut, who says, "That's my rendering in the middle." Haha, DAO kit. Thank you, Chris, for bringing that up. All right, so we might have somebody joining us, Marshall, in a little bit who wants to say hello.
Okay.
Somebody from your past, a blast from the past. He's not yet on, but when he is, I'll put him on. All right. So let's talk a little bit about how you used TAC personally for a hunt, and tell me to bring up those pictures. I'll be glad to.
Yeah, absolutely. If you want to bring up the ITAC picture, I'll kind of explain how I like to go deer hunting. And if Georgia Wildlife is listening to this, I don't know if all this was legal, but I'm going to assume it was. So,
all right, let me get them out of the way.
But yeah, I'll start telling the story while you pull it up. So my aunt and uncle have a pecan orchard down in South Georgia. Usually go to Thanksgiving there and go hunting. And there's this farm, farmland they own that I like to hunt on. So I like to always kind of geospatially plan where I'm going to go, and basically kind of measured out with the different tools and TAC the yardages of where I thought deer would come out and how far it'd be. Because I'm not a great shot. When I tell the story, you're going to laugh that I had to shoot twice to get this buck, which is embarrassing. I'm as my dad would say, a 2-shot frith. So. No, I did not score him on the first one, but it goes to an even deeper story of attack that I was working with Justin Forsyth to build a plug-in, what I call an acoustic decoy. And so I had downloaded some buck grunts from YouTube, and I talked to Justin and I said, "Hey, when you see on that image there at the very bottom, I kind of measured out based on the winds that day with the arrow pointing from the northeast. Winds were coming in from the northeast, and the magenta lines in there is basically my walk into the stand, and then my dad was over in the ground blind on the other side of the field, and kind of that peanut looking shaped thing that is in the middle is this giant bog, like 12 feet high of just thickets and everything. But the deer either come out of there or they come out of the left side tree line. So this is just pre-mission planning for deer hunting, probably overkill. My dad just goes, "Why don't you just go out there and do this?" But hadn't worked at DARPA, and then like at FLIR, I had a thermal scope too, the handheld scope or handheld monocular. I did not shoot before daylight for the Georgia Wildlife folks out there, but
we don't have TPWD on, or Georgia's version of TPWD, because those game wardens, they are very high speed.
Yeah. So it was about 10 o'clock in the morning, and that's way past like what I call the witching hour of like when the deer are going to come out. And my dad and I were texting, and I was like, "Well, let me just try my acoustic decoy, like from my stand that I'm in, kind of in where it says tree blind." Mm-hmm. And no kidding, I about 20 seconds into doing buck grunts, I hear this like rumbling that's definitely not a squirrel, because squirrels are notorious for sounding like deer. And out of that peanut-shaped bog comes this giant 9-point buck that is looking for a fight, scraping the ground. And I immediately dropped my phone with ITAC. I'm like, "Don't need this," and waited for the first good shot when he gave me a broadside look. And I'll admit, first shot like hit underneath him. It was about a 225-yard shot. So I calmed myself, reloaded, and put it on him, and took him down. And what was really useful, would have been useful if I had ATAC with me that day, was going to search for him in that peanut-shaped thicket, because I spent about 40 minutes going back and forth, like, the blood trail that was there. And then about 40 minutes in, my dad comes to help, and I said, I was like, man, why did someone put a deer decoy? Because I'm seeing this big rack like sitting there next to this tree, and I'm like, oh, that's not a decoy, that's my deer. And so yeah, if you want to share the next picture,
Yeah,
it's me exhausted of Dad and I pulling that over the fire berms that are back there in the kind of peanut shaped field. Well, that's it. That's Hoppy on my wall, and then there's after we pulled it out of the thicket back there, but yeah, I call him Hoppy. My dad calls him Techno Buck because he thinks it's pretty crazy that I use all this stuff to deer hunt. He's like, why don't you just go up there like a normal human being? But yeah, that's the quick and dirty story. I go into my girlfriend's family's place for this weekend and going to do some deer hunting in Western Virginia, not West Virginia. And so I may or may not have already purchased some imagery for high res of where I'm going hunting, and definitely have my tools ready to not freeze to death out there and see if there's really deer there or not. And but my new rule is I can't shoot anything unless it's bigger than what's on my wall. So probably will come up empty-handed. But yeah, that's the story, long and short.
That is a great story. That's a great story. You mentioned Western Virginia as opposed to West Virginia. I remember I had just gotten back from overseas, and I was about 22 years old, and driving through West Virginia, I got pulled over by a state trooper. He comes to my window, he goes, "Chass out of car." I go, "What?" He goes, "Chass out of the car." I'm like, "Sir, I don't understand." He says, "Get your ass out of the car."
Yeah.
That was fun. All right. Well, it looks like somebody would like to say hello to you, Marshall. I'm going to bring him up on the stage. Hopefully you'll remember him. Hello,
hey.
Roby.
Hey, how you doing, Marshall?
I'm hanging in there, man.
Yeah, if nobody knows, Marshall made my career.
Tell us more.
He helped me with a project that we were calling Yellow Box. And it was a little tiny project spun off from a huge project, PCAS, right? And so Marshall had to hold my hand and guide me around and tell me everything I needed to do. And so after I followed all his advice, we were able to turn that little tiny box into a really big box and sell it to some people. And that was great. So Marshall made my career.
Oh, thanks, Roby. You guys did all the work. That was a really cool one. It definitely raised the flagpole the one day when had to go talk to General Counsel, but we're all okay and no one's in jail. So
is that something you can even talk about?
Yeah, he just did. But I want to introduce Roby real quickly. Roby is a client and a very good friend. And Roby is the brain trust of many a 3- and 4-letter agency. He solves problems that are unsolvable. That picture behind me actually was made by Roby for me. He works heavily in counter-drone perturbations and different type of solution sets. And obviously, with everything that's going on, him and I are working on some fun things together. And when I told him that I was having Marshall on, he got really excited and happy to hear that. I know that he knew Yoshida. Is it Sergeant or Master Sergeant Yoshida?
I think he retired as a Chief Senior Master Sergeant, like E9 is what he retired as. And I just call him Alan. I mean, I got to know him well enough, and Alan was just a great guy.
Yeah, so the granddaddy of TAC and really making it a thing. So that was great. I appreciate you jumping in on that. I think what we'll do next is go to our next topic, and if anybody, this is mostly going to be a narrative from both Kevin and Jerry. They're going to kind of riff together, but of course, anybody who wants to jump in has something to say, give a hand raise. Panelists, viewers, give a comment. What I'd like to learn now is more about the Connecticut State Police TAC and counter-drone expertise, how that evolved, how do you use it in practice, what are some of your successes, and most importantly to me is your loaner program that you have as part of the mutual aid assistance within the New England states. So just fascinating stuff you guys do. Why don't we start with, what is the department's TAC and CUS expertise, and then we'll move into how that evolved. So take it away.
You want to go, Kevin?
Go ahead.
Yeah,
and
I'll start.
with the TAC background there.
So I got introduced to TAC in 2019. I'll say I was in the right place at the right time. I was at my desk, and one of our canine handlers came with a flash drive. He had just came back from some training and said, "Hey, I got this cool piece of software that I want to deploy." And in that flash drive was the TAC APK. It was still the mil spec version, and it was a copy of TAC server. So at the time, I was in a little bit of a different role. I was just supporting more of the fleet technology in the agency, but I've always been a techie, a nerd. So I found it really cool. Went and I installed it on his device, and we started doing this deep dive. And then it kind of took off from there. We jumped on the FBI server shortly thereafter, as soon as they started to host some of the agencies.
What year was that? How far back?
I want to say it was 2020 or 21, I want to say.
Okay.
And then I ended up going to the TAC offsite in 22 and kind of got up to speed a little bit more on some of the cool features and what other people were doing. And I remember at the time, and a big shout out to Texas and Colorado, those guys were doing amazing stuff at the time with the augmented reality and all these different things. So then I came back and I sort of ran it up our chain to see if we can get our instance up and running. And then later that year, we had gotten our own TAC server up. Today, we're not as sophisticated as Texas and Colorado and some of the other agencies. We just don't have the user management capability, which is something we're still working on. But what we do to mitigate that is that loaner program that you mentioned, and it's more of a mutual aid thing. So, for example, last year it was like a 120-acre fire when we had agencies from all over the state. We had folks from New York and even Canada come down, and we issued, it was about 70 devices for that mission, and they were thrilled. They were able to keep track of personnel, do some fire surveys, and then we also support the Travelers golf tournament. We use TAC for that as well, and that's pretty much where we're at with TAC today. And then I'll let Kevin talk about the CUAS program.
Yeah, please.
Yeah, so back in 2021, the agency acquired a drone shield sensors and on a trailer, because we cover the entire state. So we needed something that was a little more mobile than just one fixed site, because how do you pick across the state which site would be fixed? So they put together a little trailer for us and started towing that around. I took over in 2022 when I became full-time within the bomb squad. It was kind of like hey, nobody else knows how to use this. We're going to give it to you and tag you're it. And it turned out to be one of the best things, at least for me in my career, because I was told, hey, why don't you call IT and see if they can help you out in getting it up and running. So that's where I started working more and more with Jerry and his team. And then about halfway through 22, we were able to get the drone locator remote ID feature on the demodulation through Drone Shield. So now all of a sudden, instead of just having a range and bearing line, we were able to get the actual pilot and the drone information and telemetry that most people are familiar with if you had an aeroscope at the time. So we thought we were now cooking with gas, and one of the events around 4th of July that we were attending and trying to develop and get our program up and going, it was a fireworks event down on our shoreline. And so while we were down there, we quickly realized that it was going to be a lot harder to track down. When you at the beginning of the show, there was, a pilot would pop up or a drone would pop up. We'd go and track them down and tell them, hey, you got to put the drone down. It's controlled airspace. There's also this big river where they shoot the fireworks off from, the Thames River. And so on the other side of the river is a great gathering ground as well. We quickly realized that just having one person trying to track down all the pilots, especially once the fireworks started, now you've got about 20 drones up and 20 pilots. You can't get all of them at the same time. Jerry had the experience with TAC and suggested that we start trying to find a way to get all the detections into TAC. And then at these events, we're able to deploy now these loaner devices. So if we have another police department that we're working with, maybe a local agency, or even some of our own people, as we started implementing it more within the bomb squad, now all of my guys have their agency phones all loaded with TAC, whether it's ITAC or ATAC. So now that works as a force multiplier. Instead of them having to log into our multiple sensors and having those up with a username and password, the detections just show up right on their phone. So it streamlined a lot of that for us.
I have a question for you on that.
Yeah, go ahead.
I know Drone Shield has a plugin, and perhaps you also use the 9-volt Tech Boys Drone Hone as a plugin for awareness. But what did you do for the ITAC users who can't use a plugin? How were they able to receive that info?
So believe it or not, back in 2022, Drone Shield actually had a COT output. You just weren't able to use certificates to send that data. So I just spun up a Node-RED box on a Raspberry Pi, and when we would deploy the sensors, we would just keep it all in that contained network. So I would feed the COT traffic to Node-RED, attach a certificate, and then send it to the TAC server or to a channel on the TAC server.
Oh, okay. Very nerdy of you. Very geeky. Yeah. Okay, so, sorry for the interruption. Yeah.
No, yeah, that's fine. And to touch on that, and that's why I keep Jerry around. He's the brainchild of the operation. You know, when we kind of our first loaner that we had received from Drone Shield when the RF Patrol had come out, the detections were not showing on our C2 instance. They were only localized to the actual patrol display. And so running around in a crowd trying to look at the lat and long while the drone is up and while you still have a detection, putting that into a phone to then go and see where the pilot was if hopefully they hadn't moved. It was pretty cumbersome. And within a couple of days, Jerry was able to get that information to at least port over into TAC so that we would have, and that's kind of what spawned our idea now, that having different sensors all showing up on TAC instead of one user interface for each sensor or each unit, manufacturer or individual sensor. So him being able to do that really showed that that was probably going to be the best way for us going forward. And it's just kind of developed from there. Now we've got sensors kind of strewn about throughout the state, and obviously TAC, as most of your the crowd here and the viewers, if they're familiar with it, you know, being able to see all of the information on one pane of glass and one sheet of music, it really makes it a lot easier for us. Now we go to a football game. I don't know, you guys may be familiar with the Yale-Harvard rivalry for the football game every year. That this year was being hosted in Yale, down in New Haven. So we had some sensors set up down there. We also were working with TSA and the Federal Air Marshals and National Guard. They were running around the city with one of our guys, and being able to have everybody see it at the same time on one, you know, their own device just really streamlined everything for us. And then being able to see where they are, so that if we had to dispatch people to, and, you know, of course, overlaying maps, as AJ said there, you know, data fusion, overlaying the maps has been probably the biggest benefit for us too. So as the events change, or now you have a parking lot that's full of people, instead of it being an empty parking lot with one person flying a drone, it's pretty easy to find the operator or find the pilot on that one. So you drop the pin on it, and then you can say, hey, I'm right next to this building or this this tent, this venue, and they drop a pin, and more units can come and respond to them.
Excellent. So you mentioned Drone Shield. You know, being that you have a CUAS program, I'm going to venture to guess that you have other vendors' kit that you use as well. Can I ask, are you able to speak to any of those at all?
Yeah, so Jerry, through his some of his work in some of the back channels and his YouTube channel, was able to get in contact with a Drone Tag. They had reached out and sent us their rider and their scout for us to test out and see how we liked it. And recently we're able to also put those detections into TAC and overlay it with the Drone Shield detections. We're also in the process of getting some of the D-drone equipment, since the state of Connecticut just signed a deal with Axon. Part of that deal was some free goodies for us, which I think we're probably the biggest recipients of the biggest windfall from that deal. So that's going to work out pretty well for us as well. And then Jerry, if you want to talk on some of any of the other ones that you've been working on.
Yeah, no, I mean that's really pretty much it. I have the Bravo from that I got from Zev, and excellent device as well. I actually I'll have to send you some pictures of what I did. I attached it to one of our roof mounted antennas.
Have you signed on to the Edge View application yet?
Yeah. So what I do is anytime I take an agency vehicle, so I have an assigned agency vehicle, and I leave it attached to it, and so I'm able to pull it up on my NDT in the vehicle. So, but I hooked it up to one of our roof mounted antennas, and it's
awesome.
Really working pretty good.
So for the viewers who may or may not know, I am the value added reseller for Nine Hill Technologies, and I'm focusing more on law enforcement, commercial, and places like houses of worship or trucking companies that might have 200 trailers in their yard overnight, and a competitor might fly over to try to see who their prospects are, who their clients are, and they want to know about that. Or maybe a waste management facility like a dump where a competitor might fly over with a methane sensor to try to get some readings that they can use to narc on them to the EPA. So these are the kinds of things that drones are being used for now. Some people would like to call it competitive intelligence. I think it's bordering industrial espionage, which is, definitely illegal. But yeah, so those little units, it's amazing what they could do just with the RID component now. But in a week's time, I believe they're going to be releasing the Mini, which is a smaller version of it that's going to have 2.4 and 5.8 reception of any emissions that are up there in the air. So yeah, that's what my company does, as well as other things. We help the commercial and the law enforcement aspects. So I'm really happy you're testing it, and I can't wait to get you out the new one, which will do 2.4 and 5.8. So thank you for that.
Awesome.
Yeah. As far as D-Drone, I'm not sure if everybody knows, but Axon does own D-Drone. So if you're a law enforcement shop and you've got a badge cam, you've already got a relationship with Axon. Try to leverage that towards your counter drone requirements. And we're starting to see that SLTT legislative relief towards the FCC ban of messing with flying laptops, or the FAA ban considering a $19 drone from Walmart to have the same protection as a Boeing 747. We hope those legislative reliefs that are afforded to the federal agencies, the Department of War, Energy, Justice, and Homeland Security, is going to start trickling down to SLTT. So get on that wagon, talk to Axon, and try to figure out how you can get some D-Drone kit as well. So thank you for bringing that up. Thank you.
Yep.
So on the loaner program, is it more for end user devices, or do you also loan out other types of kit that you could speak of?
It's mainly just for end user devices. We have a cache. I think at this point we're up to like almost 80 Sonoms, and the reason we like the Sonoms is just because of the kiosk mode. It could turn the device into, excuse me, especially for folks that are more comfortable with the iOS user interface. It really cleans up the Android user interface and simplifies it, so you can choose what apps you have available to them. Excuse me. So yeah, we have about 80 Sonom phones that, and we don't have any real special process for a request. You just simply shoot me an email, and I'll run it up the chain and usually get approval fairly quickly. And then we'll coordinate. We'll bring out the devices. We'll give a quick one-on-one. I have a quick reference guide that I usually leave with the devices as well. And if there's any type of data that needs to be overlaid, I'll usually take care of it for them. I'll also show them how to drop points and stuff like that. And then, yeah, off we go.
Brilliant. So for those of you who have his information, go ahead and use it. For those of you who don't, you can go out to LinkedIn and connect with him. And if it seems like it's a good fit, he'll certainly accept your request. I think you can also go out to the Connecticut State Police website. I might have found your email address there as well. I don't remember for sure, but it could be. And wonderful, we have the Reverend of TAC, AJ, having left the comment that data fusion is what TAC accelerates at. That shared consciousness. Love that. Thank you, AJ, for coming in and having that to say. And of course, if you'd like to join the panel, let me know, and I will send you a link to the studio. Okay, let's see. The next topic I wanted to discuss was CivTac 25, because first of all, that's where I met all of you, other than, well, actually I met Tim Reed in person there. Roby I have yet to meet, although I consider him one of my closest friends through many a phone call and Zoom that we've had. But I know that both Tim and Marshall had a talk there. They had some time and gave a presentation. And I wanted to ask you, Tim, if you could just give us a quick recap of what your presentation was about at CivTac and maybe some impressions of what you had while you were there.
Sure, Zev. So to get to what I discussed starts last year at CivTac when I talked to Ralph Kohler about why the source for ATAC had kind of stopped being pushed to GitHub, because it's very critical as a developer of plugins that I have access to that to see how things are done, because the SDK documentation isn't enough there, and to see how TAC is actually doing things under the covers is very helpful in developing plugins. So that question and conversation spawned into a CRADA for Adeptus, and we've spent the last 8 months or so updating and working with the TAC Product Center to get a more automated method of releasing the source to GitHub, and that's what the talk was at CivTac, was everything that we had done to get to that point of taking all their manual processes for tagging repos and automating that. So when like 5.6.0 just came out, so we'll run our scripts and it'll just push it to GitHub for us. We'll do some tests because things change in baselines, but that'll be that was what we did, and that's what the discussion was. So I'm happy to have the code back out there, so it can help the community.
Awesome. Thank you for that. And I know I love a couple of your plugins, your public safety plugin, which really makes it easy for federated agencies who are coming in, working together on a situation. You make it easy for them to establish roles and teams and specialties and so on. So if anybody has a chance, I urge you to go out to his website, Adeptus. I think it's adeptus-cs.com. Is that correct?
Or adeptuscybersolutions.com, full name.
Oh, full name. Okay, thank you. Yeah, and check those out. If you're in the community, you will love his plugins. Okay, Marshall, can you tell us a little bit about your presentation?
Yeah, absolutely. I was, I had just joined SkyFi about a week prior. So, was kind of rushing at the last minute to give a presentation on our current plugin that's in the Play Store. We'll be probably dropping a new release that's a lot more stable on or about December 10th. But really just wanted to show folks what SkyFi offers from a platform side of, free to, paid geospatial data. So think of, I guess the best way to think of SkyFi, after I kind of went through the examples in the presentation of working with FEMA during the 2017 hurricanes in Florida. We only had what we had, and one of the beauties of what SkyFi offers is we have really great relationships with all different types of satellite vendors, from Vantor to Planet Labs to ISI US to Umbra to I'm going to forget them all because I'm still pretty new. I'm on week 7. It's a great team, and so anything you can imagine, from synthetic aperture radar that can see at night through clouds. You can get on TAC. I was able to show that there of Hurricane Melissa had just come through, and I believe Umbra had provided an S3 bucket that I was able to pull down some SAR images and push out to some folks there at CivTac that had folks on the ground in Jamaica, which was really great. So really the presentation was just to kind of give the community, if you're familiar with tactics on kind of the ATAC mill side, what we really offer at SkyFi is a commercial unclassified solution for whatever your need is. You may just need an optical picture. Say you're going to go serve a high-risk warrant in law enforcement, and you want to know where the exits and entry points are to that house. And maybe it's changed over time because the last image you have is 6 months old and they've done some changes, or there's a car blocking something to the synthetic aperture radar use case there in the hurricanes of, hey, there were clouds covering it, so optical didn't do a lot of good for you for first responders, but we were able, to provide that. So really what we're trying to do, whether it's the web platform, our commercial apps, or natively with the TAC plugin, kind of give the same user experience of the ability to literally have geospatial in your hands and get on-demand geospatial as you need it. So that was pretty much the talk.
You brought something up that has always been a question to me. I've worked with LiDAR before, and I know you can get under the canopy to see the ground and be able to do evaluation. Is there something out there right now that can see through the clouds? Is that what SAR does?
Yeah. Synthetic aperture radar from both Umbra and ISI-US does that very well. So that was the reason we were able to get the Jamaica high resolution imagery to folks that needed it, because we couldn't get an updated optical image because of clouds kind of covering the island where the storm had hit.
Now, do you work with partners in the TAC community as value-added resellers, or does everybody come directly to SkyFi?
So I'm probably going to get this wrong, and our CEO and my boss, Kate's probably going to, but think of us as more of the conduit to go to those, we have white label deals with Vantor, with Planet Labs, with ISI-US, where if you are already a customer with them, you can get a SkyFi experience like our user interface that you would see on the web directly with them if you already have a relationship. Or you can come to SkyFi and you can set your parameters of what you're looking for, cloud coverage, what day you want to task, the type of image geospatial product you need. Even further, if there's analytics you want, you can purchase analytics off the imagery as well. And that's really something I think that's going to be pretty clutch for TAC users in the next 6 months or so as we mature our analytics piece. For whether that's, it could be an agricultural use case with NDVI, it could be, AIS ship detection, things like that. So really just about anything you can think of in the constellation that through our platform it provides with all our different satellite providers. I hate to say it, but yeah, it's hard to say there's something we don't do. And I'm not saying satellites solve it all. If you think of the aerial layer of drones and what the kind of resolutions you're going to get, drones still serve a big purpose in the TAC community. But I think what SkyFi brings to the table is, this great relationship with all our satellite vendors to geospatially go after your mission set.
Brilliant. Okay, let's move on to the next topic, which I think is very current, and that would be, what are we all doing for the FIFA and Olympics coming up? And I'd like to start with with Kevin and Jerry about what Connecticut may be doing for any venues that they have that are helping them focus in on that mission and hopefully getting grants towards that. Take it away.
Yeah, so Connecticut's not a host state. However, we sit squarely between New York and Boston. So our expectation is going to be a strain on the transportation system within the state. So we also, throughout New England, have a compact agreement with all the New England state police agencies where if a certain agency needs support, we go up. So we work, especially on the bomb squad, hand in hand with the Mass State Police bomb squad for all events at Gillette. So we're anticipating being up there for the duration of their operational period, which I believe is either going to be 45 or 50 days, and just cycling our guys through. The challenge with having multiple agencies, even now you're crossing state lines, not just state and local town lines, is that awareness of where people are, or how are we going to dispatch people when you don't have a common dispatching, computer-aided dispatch system. So I've brought up in some of our higher level conversations that we're planning on, and I think TAC is going to end up being the way that we decide to go. Especially with our cache of devices, it'll be easy to have them at a central location where somebody comes in every day and grabs their phone and goes and off to the races for the day.
Brilliant. And Roby, I know you're working on several different projects at once. Have any of your projects had anything to do with the upcoming events? Roby, you're muted, possibly? There
was
we
gonna
go.
say it wouldn't unmute, and now it did. I don't think so. There is only a consultation around how can you do RF jamming without jamming everything, which is it's actually possible, but it's way too complicated. Even a directed. I haven't had any real interaction with anybody other than what can we do here technologically. Legally, I don't talk about that. It's too complicated.
Gotcha. Yeah, when I think of RF, I mean, the best possible option, especially when we have Jerry and Kevin here. We have Jerry here kind of representing the Star Trek logo behind him. It's actually the shadows of the top of his A-frame area. And but it brings to mind the tractor beam of the old Star Trek series, where they could actually grab hold of another vessel and tractor beam it wherever they wanted, which in my mind would be take a bad drone or suspect drone and have a tractor beam to Kevin, where there would be hazmat or EOD awaiting, as opposed to just making it fall or return to sender. Are you guys working on any of that in your CUAS to be able to, and again, I know you're not at the mitigation point yet, but certainly I would think you're thinking about that. What does that look like?
I'm doing something a little different, which is kind of blind signal analysis and processing, and then taking apart an unknown signal and then making a mitigation. I think Marshall knows how hard that is. And I've got a very simple prototype working. And that's where one place where we need to go. And then some other things I'm looking at, if you've read what I've been writing, is actually interrogating the drone remotely and then trying to respond. And there's actually some things you can do. Everybody's worried about these fiber drones coming into an event. I think somebody might notice you getting these big spools of fiber out of your vehicle or whatever, but it is a concern. They're not so easy to deal with normal jamming concepts and procedures. There's actually some ways that it's not very common. You can actually jam at the one sensor that's always there and always on and always used, which is your camera. There's lots of things you can do from the camera, and I don't know why CUS people don't do it, but it's hard, but you can do it, and it's something I think that needs to be done by vendors, because you look at the CUS world and it's very stiff and dull and boring. There's not so much going on. And people say, well, we made this new kinetic thing or whatever. It's still 1970s, just ramped up. You don't see tractor beams. So
Okay.
There needs to be some more creativity and effort.
Jerry and Kevin, are you guys giving any thought to what mitigation is going to look like in that kill chain once you're allowed to do it?
Yeah, just about every day. Yeah, it's a challenge, right? I mean, the first step to any of the mitigation is going to be detecting. So if you either don't have the the layers of detection to get a good picture of the airspace awareness, throwing an RF signal up and trying to jam something may or may not work. Especially when you have that picture behind you that you have to be concerned with. No different than you shooting a gun. You've got to worry about what's behind that target that you're aiming at, so that you're accountable for it. I think legislation at the state level and the federal level, but certainly once the federal level goes, the state level is going to have to be, I would say, really caught up to speed in a hurry in order to make sure that the liability and legal aspects are supporting the law enforcement. And I know CISA just came out with their guidance for handling down drones, and they recommend treating everything like it's potential IED, obviously with what you see going on overseas and down on the border. So I would expect our calls for service to start going up once mitigation starts coming in and other agencies have it, because there's only so many bomb techs throughout the country and certainly throughout the state of Connecticut. So, possibly needing more personnel that are going to be trained in handling it once it's downed as well.
Yeah, it's interesting how many bomb techs morph into CUAS. So there's a fellow named Andy Olson up in the Great White North in Canada, who was part of your community and then became a drone and counter drone guy. So AJ had a good comment, and I'm going to talk to that a little bit. When I was back in 23, I gave a presentation for several agencies in the Eisenhower Executive Office Building, which is on the campus of the White House. And from our room, I was able to see the roof of the White House. And without going into detail, the types of effectors I saw were pretty wild. Also, the operators that were on top of it were clad in black, which to me was a little funny, being in black on the white roof of a White House. I wanted to send something in and say, hey, that's kind of like that 5% or 5-degree grade on a roof at the president's speech in Butler. You got to be more careful there. But yeah, some of the stuff up there, if it would have gone to effect, would have taken out AED machines, kidney dialysis machines, laptops, something out of War of the Worlds that Tom Cruise starred in, when those aliens came in and just blew away everything with an EMP. So yeah, it's something that's difficult, and we need to consider, like, is there a berm that can receive that which I'm shooting if it doesn't hit the intended target? Okay, well, I'm sorry, did somebody want to say something to that?
No, I was just going to add to that, Zev. I mean, on the law enforcement side, we still have to go and find out who flew it. So we're still going to need to track down that pilot, which right now is our mitigation strategy, is going and finding them as quickly as possible. So that's kind of been our best case so far.
Yeah, and from the commercial aspect on my side, when I teach a customer what their SOP should look like, that's in there, is making contact, doing an interview as lightly as possible. And then if that's not getting anywhere, exactly what to say to law enforcement to call them and get them involved as well. Interestingly enough, some of the security teams are looking at TAC so that they can speak to some of the responders coming. So when the responders are on their way, they know from TAC, once they get that team on federated with them, they know exactly who is where, what assets they have. For instance, we have a ballistic shield whiteboard in a school, which can help officers ingress. I think you guys saw it at the conference, and also egress with civilians behind it. Knowing where that kit is simply, very important. We have one more comment from somebody that I really respect and have enjoyed watching her growth in the TAC community as well, CUAS. Every board she sits on and every company that she works with really appreciates her, and that is the inimitable Michelle Duquette, meaning there's nobody like her. So Michelle says that the FIFA events are the proving grounds and how public safety uses TAC as the fabric for shaking out the real-time interoperability layer use cases. This approach gets us more quickly to enabling mitigation policy. And, just to give a little background, Michelle was with MITRE for many, many years and has an inside track with the FAA and understands the import of having commercial delivery vehicles in the air working with law enforcement. Obviously, those who mitigate or drones that are coming to mitigate against bad drones have priority, and how that's all going to flesh out. So she's actually part of the TAC Public Safety Board now. And it's wonderful, Michelle, to see you here and also to have you doing all those things. I think we're all going to be better for it. So thank you. So one more question, which is a good one from Martin Granger. Can nets be used to capture an adversary's drone? Well, certainly by one of those 4 agencies we discussed: War, Energy, Justice, and Homeland Security. But if Billy Bob is flying his drone over your 14-year-old daughter's pool party and you decide to take a water hose or a broom or a net to it, you're going to need a lawyer. So yes, it can capture an adversary's drone. I've seen nets that are now working for Group 3 drones, which is pretty heady, but they do that often in areas of operation in the military. Okay, I think that shall do it. I want to thank all of you for being here. This was a great panel. I apologize for the eye wiping, but my floaters are really getting worse. And so where I couldn't see my Horus reticle and have had to change back all of my scopes to being a mil-dot reticle because they're big and I know what they mean. Now I have a problem seeing the screen unless I do that. So I apologize for that. But we look forward to our next All Things TAC. Again, Droneresponders is sponsoring this one. And by the way, we have a challenge right now that Paul Clifton helped put together. Paul is the search and rescue deputy sheriff out in Coconino County back in my old country. And he put together a really nice challenge of people have to build a route from point A to point B in the wilderness. And whoever makes the most exquisite version of that on the baseline wins one of these minis. And then the next classification is doing that with communications, being text or phone calls within TAC or voice recordings. And then the third one being using UAS tool. And so that challenge ends December 2nd. We're not letting anybody game it. So people like AJ or Lecklighter or the folks on this panel are not eligible. You know, do it if you'd like, but you're not eligible to win anything. And what we ask is that you go out to Droneresponders, and if you're not already a member of Droneresponders, which is free, or the TAC working group, which is free, go out there and sign up, and then you can get into the discussion group, and you'll see the challenge, you'll see the data package that Paul Clifton put up there, and this runs through December 2nd. Do it with a buddy, make your route, send a data package to me, zev@uasstrategic.com. You're not going to want to put it on the discussion board because everybody else is going to look at it and competitive intelligence will ensue. So again, thank you all for coming. We're going to go offline. I'm going to ask the panelists to stay just for a moment afterwards, and we will see you next time.
Thanks, Ev.
Thanks, Ev.